Well, hello everybody, and welcome to our show, A Walk in My Shoes. My name is Dan Vasquez, and I'm so thankful that you're taking the time of your day to come and join us here for a very special episode of A Walk in My Shoe. This program is designed for you to gain experience, to gain knowledge about how to start a business. And today we have a very special guest that is joining us all the way from the East Coast in the beautiful state of Maine, Sharyn Peavey. She's a professional photographer, and we're just so happy that you're here. Sharyn, welcome to A Walk in My Shoes.
Thank
How
you.
are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
So how are things in Maine?
So things are starting to open up and move, and I think people are excited and happy to get out. Not only is it starting to get warm up here in the cold state of Maine, but yeah, so we're hopeful. Yeah.
Yes. Well, yes, we are also hopeful, and I think we all are in the same place. We just can't wait for this whole thing to pass so that we can go back
Yes.
to some more of the usual that we're used to. But Sharyn, I'm so thankful for you, and I just really appreciate.
Absolutely.
And we're so happy that you agreed to our invitation.
Absolutely.
So you are a professional photographer. So let us know, before we get into your profession, we would like to know more about yourself. So tell us where you grew up, tell us some of your hobbies, what makes you happy. Tell us some things about yourself.
Okay. So I'm a professional photographer. I live in southern Maine, and I have a 14-year-old daughter. And aside from I've been a photographer since I was the age of 14, and I'm in my 40s now,
Wow.
so long time. And one of my hobbies that I like to do outside of photography is I like to salsa dance, which you imagine there's not a lot of salsa dancing in Maine, but yet there is. Don't worry. So that's my side hobby. Yeah. So I'm originally from Vermont, and great state of Vermont, and moved to Maine when I was 4 with my parents. My dad built us a house. We lived out in the woods, and I then went from Maine to a private art high school in for high school, and then I went to Baltimore to go to college, and then I worked up the East Coast, and eventually made my way back to Maine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah,
That's awesome. So, um, as, as we were talking earlier, this whole situation with COVID-19 has affected
yep,
many different businesses, and it has affected really everybody around the world, not only in the U.S. And everyone that is, that has a company or its own bus, like yourself, right?
yep,
Um, has been affected
yep.
by COVID-19. How has COVID-19 has affected your business?
So, I want to talk about it in 3 parts. How COVID-19 has affected my business. So, for one, a portion of my business is wedding photography. I would say about 30% of my business is wedding photography. It used to be higher, but I wanted to switch and diversify and do more commercial and portrait work. So, weddings can't happen right now unless you want to have 10 people or less. And a lot of brides don't want that. That's not the day that they imagined. So I'm rescheduling, moving money. Weddings are now being pushed out to 2021, hopeful that next summer we can have a gathering of 100 people, a dance floor full of people, right? People want that. Then there is the aspect of commercial work. So businesses, some of my commercial work would be, say, people in the medical field. Well, they need to rebrand their marketing to show that they're being safe. So that's actually a plus because they need new photos. So, okay, so I can pick up that work. They need to show that their doctors are wearing masks, or any businesses that need to re promote themselves. they need a photographer. So that's good. Okay. We like that in my business.
Yeah.
Then there's the aspect of portrait work. So I started a project, just for instance, the people will want their portraits taken when they feel good, and people are in a funny place right now. They want to feel
Wow.
good, but a lot of people aren't feeling real good right now. Whether they've lost someone who's died, or they've lost their job, or they're just afraid of what's going on. So there's many people who are not reaching out for portrait work, or even so this project that I was doing to raise money for Freeport Community Services, which Vector mom was a big part of, and that's how I found out about it a long time ago. um, I, you've heard of it, the front porch project. People come out on their porch and you take a portrait of them. Some people are like, I don't want you to take my picture. That's understood, but other people do. And so I've raised money for that. So that's one of the other side things that I've done since COVID-19. Yeah.
Wow. Well, it's a good thing that you're a creative person and that you are willing to maneuver and to move around, you know. I often say that our life is like a ship in the ocean, a sailing ship, and we have to learn to discern when the wind is blowing and how we need to move our sails so we can catch the wind. And it seems like this is what you're doing.
Absolutely.
So tell us about the photography. How did you get into photography? What motivated you? How did you decided to do this your career?
Yes. Okay. I love this question. So I I was first inspired doing visual arts. Do you know the guy on PBS who used to paint with the happy trees? Bob Via, whatever.
Ross.
Right, Bob Ross.
Bob Ross.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I started taking art lessons at like the age of 8, and then I met a friend in 8th grade, and she had a camera, and we started messing around, taking pictures. My dad had a camera, and he was a very patient man. So I'd spend many lunchtime afternoons talking to my dad at like the age of 13. What are f-stops? What are shutter speeds? Blah, 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 blah. So I just began taking pictures all through high school. And then I got into an art high school, knowing that art, something in arts, whether it was theater, dance, whatever, I knew I wanted some piece of it. And I found myself photographing all my students at my school because I truly believed that everybody could have a beautiful portrait taken of themselves. I don't care who you are. And that's been my motto ever since. So I started that at 17. I went to an art college where I was going to study painting. And the stories that I wanted to tell, I couldn't tell appropriately through painting. And I slowly transitioned from a painting major to a photography major because I had to overcome this idea that a real artist had to have paint all over them and be dirty and messy. I don't know if it's like that anymore, but that's the way it was in the 90s. And so I switched my major to photography, which had a plus because I was working in the photography department and people would call and, hey, I want some pictures taken. I got a couple $100. Well, I'm your girl. I need to make money. So then I slowly started building up, doing it as a business as well as for my art. Yeah.
Family tree that was a photographer.
So my dad really liked photography. He had a really nice 35 millimeter camera with a couple of lenses. And so because he had that as a hobby, he could teach me. So I think that really helped. I noticed that on his side, his parents had cameras, were always taking pictures. My great grandmother was always taking pictures, but nobody was a professional photographer, but everybody on my dad's side did appreciate quality pictures and documenting. Yeah. Yep.
For you to get into this type of business, or
I would say that there were certain stepping stones that were really crucial. So once I started to learn the camera, he would just drop little ideas into my head, such as, hey, well, why don't you call up the newspaper photographer, which was called that Waldo Independent was the local newspaper. And he said, just call her up and tell her you want to learn from her, work for free. And I was like, that's not a bad idea. So he would plant little ideas like that. And so I did that. And I would, work for her one summer. And it's amazing that when you offer to work for free, people don't really turn that down if you're, halfway decent, and you can learn so
Wow.
much.
That is a great tip,
Yeah.
especially for the young people today that and you've learned this in your during your time in your career
Yep.
that it's not always trying to see what you can get,
Yep.
but actually what you can give.
Yep.
And the amazing thing is that when you are willing to give something for free, is that you develop relationships. And Sharyn, I'm sure you found this as I have found out, that when you develop a relationship with somebody, sometimes a relationship is more valuable than money.
Yes.
I would say most of the time.
Yes.
And that relationship can open doors.
Yes.
And that is helping. Would you agree with that?
I agree 100%. I think knowing people and just the memories that you have. So for sometimes what I think for younger people who maybe want to get started, and this goes for any age actually, is if you think short term, it's not going to benefit you long term. So in the short term, if you say to yourself, hey, I work for a week for free, or I work a day for free, or even $10 an hour, or minimum wage. But what you're learning and the skills you're gaining can carry you. I think that would be my advice too, is to just take a step back and look long term. Because if you know
I think Sharon, I think somebody needs to write that down, honestly.
right.
If you want long-term success, you need to think long-term.
Yes.
Don't think short-term, because short-term thinking leads to short-term results.
Correct.
But if you want long-term results, man, somebody needs to tweet this out. So anybody watching you have Twitter, go ahead and tweet that out. Short-term,
Yes.
let's see if we can phrase it right. Short-term thinking leads to short-term results. Long-term thinking can lead to long-term results. I love that. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing
you're
that.
welcome.
That's great.
Yeah.
So when you work in the newspaper, tell us about that experience. What's some of the things that you learned working for free at a
Well, first of all, I
newspaper?
was so nervous, like, oh my gosh, right? Like, you think you know something, and then all of a sudden you're around people who know stuff, right? So it's humbling. So I just remember being so nervous, I was just sweating inside their air conditioned office, just sweating. But I decided that I didn't want to be a newspaper photographer. Okay,
Okay.
right away, and I was like, okay.
Why was that?
There was a lot of driving around and not a
Uh-huh.
lot of time with people. They want quick, 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 and
Okay.
and so there wasn't enough time.
So the demands,
Yeah,
it's very
very
demanding.
demanding. Pay isn't
Yeah.
that great, and
Okay.
not that pay is everything, but
Right.
so I personally like to take more time, maybe an editorial piece, but newspaper is, fast, fast, fast. So I think I can recall maybe my dad encouraging me to stay, doing the job because I'm still learning, even though I knew that maybe isn't the avenue that I wanted to go. And sometimes what's awesome about photography is that there's many avenues you could take being a photographer. I mean, some people might think a photographer is just your local portrait studio who does, you stand and smile, or you're a newspaper photographer, or you're a commercial photographer who shoots, for Coca-Cola and all that cool stuff. But
Right.
then you could also just be an artist who has a regular job and sells in a fine art gallery. Like,
Yeah.
so for people, I know I'm going off here on a little bit, but so if there's people who just
Yeah,
pick
go
up a
ahead.
camera like I did, and I'm like, I don't really know why I like this. I just like it, right? That was me from
Yeah, yeah.
13, 14, 15, still today. I still just like picking up my camera. You don't have to know why and where it's going to take you. Just keep working it. Just keep using it. And I also personally like math. That was one of my more favorite subjects. Photography can allow you to be creative and kind of geeky at the same time, which worked really well for me. Um,
Uh-huh.
what I what I want to say, and I know you might bring this up later, so we could touch upon it later too. But I know our audience is young adults, younger kids in general, right? Is that correct? So I feel as though everybody has one of these little smartphones right here. So there's so much that kids can do and have an Instagram account and use photography and use TikTok
Yes.
and share and document that they don't even like. the threshold to becoming a photographer or being an artist and having your voice heard is
Yeah.
so like right there. The barrier is really short. So for me, if I took pictures and I wanted to get them printed, I had to print them and like invite people to come, and maybe 20 people would show up and see my 10 pictures, right? Take a month, right? Take me
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
month. So, and all that work kids could do in like a couple hours right now and have
Wow,
a
yeah.
whole wide world, which is amazing.
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, I agree with you. You know, I got mine right here. But
Yeah.
I heard someone say, Sharyn, that we have more technology on these things right here than what the man that touched the moon for the first time had.
Right?
I mean, it's incredible,
It's incredible.
right?
It's incredible.
So it's a lot more useful than just to play games, right? We can
Yeah.
do so much. And the cameras nowadays are just amazing.
Amazing.
Yeah. Um, Talking about that technology, let me get a little bit into the technical aspect.
Yeah.
Does it really make a difference between using a professional camera and a good cell phone camera like an iPhone? What are some of the differences, or what would you recommend to somebody who's really passionate about photography
Yep.
and want to have the best quality?
Great question. So, first of all, the most important thing is take the stupid picture, okay? Whether it's with this or a fancy camera. So, if you say to yourself, oh, I needed this camera, I can't do this project without this camera. No, do the project with what you have.
Okay.
And then, so let's just get that as groundwork, right? You gotta shoot, you gotta know your vision, whatever it is. But when it comes to learning lenses and understanding that experience of what the difference between a 24 millimeter lens could do versus an 85 millimeter lens, that relationship to your subject, and then how that will you know, over to the viewer, who is then in your exact spot where you took that picture. That's where the viewer will stand. So if I was to photograph you and I was to shoot you and I wanted to be intimate and kind of like personal, I'm going to shoot with a wider angle lens because it's almost as if you could reach out and touch that person, right? But if I want you to look very professional and proper, I might shoot with a longer lens so there's more space between us and you kind of feel that authority, right? So it's understanding those elements in the glass, in the lenses. Number one, the camera body is, that's less important to me.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of getting into those nuances, just like as if you were to become a musician, you know, what kind of genre of music do you want to create? You know, what is this vibe that you're trying to, feeling that you want to carry over? That's what the lenses are. Those are your tools of communication for your feeling, right? So that it
Wow.
expands your
I love that.
vocabulary. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to go back and touch on something that you said
Yep.
a little bit ago.
Okay.
And I think this is so important that most people don't think about it. You said that you can communicate with the pictures. How is that? Can you expand on that? Like you're a communicator
Yes.
without words.
Right. Right. So when they say that a picture is worth 1,000 words, totally. So when I tried to blog more and write more, I realized that my words can get kind of jumbled up. And my sister, who works for me, who likes to grammatically correct most of my words, I realized this is why I'm a photographer.
Are you a blogger too? Do you have a blog?
I do. I have a blog on my website. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Okay, number one, we need to share your website. So
Okay.
if you can tell us your website and Vector can help us post it on the chat and on Facebook,
Yep.
we're
Okay.
gonna share your website and we
Okay.
also want to share your blog, okay?
Thank you.
So
Okay.
we'll post it there. Okay,
Vector
go
should
ahead.
know
I'm
my
sorry.
name. It's my name, SharynPeavey.com. He should know that.
Okay.
I did his senior pictures, by the way.
Oh, cool.
Back in the day. Back in the day.
I want to see that.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So we're talking about communicating, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes. So there's so much. What's cool about photography, is that I can have an intent of what I want to communicate with somebody, but at the end of the day, the viewer will take their own experiences and hear and see what they want to see, right? So for instance, when I do portrait work, which is what I truly love to do, people is why I photograph, right? The human connection. I did say that I believe that there's something beautiful inside everybody that I want to capture. And so beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? So that's my job to share the beauty that I see in that person to the world and also to themselves, themselves. And so that's their character. That's something inside of them that makes them who they are to me, right? I mean, we can
Yeah.
Photoshop and make every little wrinkle and acne piece go away. There's that aspect to it. But then on a real life photojournalistic aspect of it is the humanity. That's my piece. But there's so much in the way that we choose which lenses, how we process the pictures, coloring, the lighting. That's all communicating something. And it's you have to know what you want to say when you're taking a picture. What do you want to? What do
Yeah.
I want to say about this person? What does that person want me to say about them? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like there is, and I'm so glad you're sharing with this with us. This is very enlightening to me because this is like a whole other world
Yeah.
that I don't know. I mean, we're so used to looking at pictures. We live in a day where
Yes.
we are looking at. I don't know
Thousands
about you. Yeah, I see at
every
least
day.
100, 200 pictures a day. I mean, I have Instagram, I have
Yep.
Pinterest, I have Facebook,
Scroll,
and I
scroll.
scroll throughout the day. And I mean, the number of pictures that are thrown at you, it's incredible.
Yep. And I think so. In Ohio, do you have billboards
Yes, we do.
on the highway? Okay. So in Maine, we don't allow that. So only when I drive to
Oh,
other states, right? Yeah. Yay,
uh-huh.
we get to look at green trees. Um, just think about what that image is trying to tell you in a half a second. That corporation is trying to tell you something in that picture. They're communicating a
Yeah,
message to you in
yeah,
a quarter of a second. So yeah, so there's so much being spoken to us through pictures today. And it's important to ask ourselves, what is it that we're getting out of this? What are they trying to tell me? Do I agree with that?
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, as a viewer, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Wow. So you have now been in the work of photography for how many years?
So I'm 47,
Okay.
and I picked up the camera when I was 13. I mean, I started getting professionally. I started taking jobs when I was a sophomore in college. I think I did my first wedding for $100. It was okay. Um, so, and then I graduated. So, I mean, I've been working as a professional photographer for I don't know how many years, but a long time. How's that? Like 25 something years? Yeah.
Uh-huh. That's amazing.
Maybe, yeah.
I'm sure it has not been easy all of
No,
these years.
right.
And I'm sure you face some challenges. Number one,
Yep.
what are some of the challenges you faced? And number two, what has helped you to stay in this course? Like,
Yep.
I mean, it's a long time.
Long
You
time.
could have gone in a different direction. I'm sure you've been
Yep.
distracted. What has kept you in your line of what you're doing?
Okay. Great question. Because I have to ask myself that every other day. I'm like, why do I do this? So, and then there's my daughter who's like, why couldn't you be a dentist or like a banker? You can have a big fancy house. I'm like, well, there's that. So should I start with the why and then get into the struggle?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
So
yeah.
I think for me, the why is that I recognize that inside it's what I want to do, right? So I almost walked away from the why, like say 8 years ago, I was shooting up before the economy collapsed in 2006. So I worked
Yeah.
through that recession. Before that, I was so busy, and I'm working. And so for years, I didn't take pictures for myself. I just was taking pictures for other people, and I was, making money, and that's good, paying off a car, paying off my house, and but I wasn't taking a vacation. I wasn't taking pictures for myself. And then to get back to my why and why I'm continuing to be a photographer, I picture myself at 90 still wanting to take pictures. Okay.
Wow.
I just do. Now, would I like to be retired? Yes. So there's something inside of me that has that's something that I want to say. And I found that the camera is my voice for that. And I think, yeah, so that's why I do it. I think too that people, okay, so part of what motivates me right now are some of the few people who reached out to do portrait sessions for their kids with me during COVID. We'll do it outside, it's very safe. The moms have written back to me and said that it's been one of their happiest hours of their life since COVID-19 happened. because they came, they left their home, they drove to where my studio is, which is this really pretty campus, not far. It's like Highland Farms. It's beautiful. Okay, it's like this little sanctuary in the middle of nowhere, and they really appreciated it. They were happy. They took their mind off things. And what I love about a portrait shoot, for instance, especially with children, is that my goal is we just get lost in their world for 30 to 45 minutes. This isn't about like, did you eat, brush your teeth, did you do your homework, pick up those dirty shoes. It's not about that. It's like them, and kids like to explore and be happy and play and laugh. Parents want pictures of their kids laughing. We'll let them be themselves. So it's their moment to kind of sit back and make sure they don't like, run onto the road and get run over. But other than that, we're good. And it's a time like to appreciate yourself. And so the parents have really appreciated that. So I'm happy to not only give them the gift of the pictures that will last for years and years, but just that experience. Because right now, where can you go? Go to the grocery store and and you come home and you wash off and you're like, ah. So that's part of my why. Okay, that's part of my why. And there definitely are struggles. Should we dive into that conversation now?
Yeah, sure. Talk to me about some of the struggles that you encounter along the way in this career, and how did you overcome them?
Yep. Okay. So when I first graduated from college, I dabbled in wedding photography a little bit. I was also showing in art galleries in Baltimore, Maryland, where I went to school. I went to the Maryland Institute College of Art in Baltimore, and excellent school, excellent school. And Baltimore has a really rich arts community. It's a great city. Okay. So then I got a job working for a New York photographer doing architectural work in the Baltimore region. And so it was cool. So I did that, did my artwork on the side. And then they asked me to come to New York City. And I said, okay, well, what else am I going to do? And so I did that. And very different scene in New York City than Baltimore. Okay. So that was challenging. So constantly I had to grow and like move. And so I had a job that I was shooting for a small business, but I wasn't really happy. So I reached out to some really famous photographers that lived in New York City that show in, museums. And I picked up the phone book and I called them up and I was like, do you need help? And they said, sure. So I'd work with them, right? And that was,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, like some never called me back, but some did. And they were like, great. So I'd go down to their studio in Soho, once or twice a week. And I got to see that world, and that was incredible. And I think so I had to adapt. And then when I moved to Maine, I switched over to weddings because there wasn't a lot of commercial work. The fine art world in Maine is very landscape and traditional. I'm not that. And so I adapted then to weddings. So I like the drama, I like the people. So I've just kind of constantly been adapting. And now, so I adapted to mostly doing weddings around 2002 to 2003. And then around 2015, maybe a little earlier, I realized I didn't want every weekend to be spent at a wedding. I wanted to be with my daughter a little bit more because she's at school all week long. And then if Saturday I'm gone for 12 hours, right? And then Sunday I'm a piece of wreck, I'm like tired. I'm like, don't talk to me. So then I transitioned. So now it's a constant journey, just like, you have to keep moving. You have to make financial decisions. You have to know how to charge, for your work. So there's the art of being a photographer, and then there's like running the business too. And there's so much information online. I belong to a group called Professional Photographers of America called PPA. And they're such a good resource. I should have taken advantage of them when I was 22 and not waited until I was like much older. Be in a better financial position if I had. So I would encourage people to do that. There's so much information out there for that. Yeah.
That's amazing. So let me switch the conversation a little bit, and let me ask you another type of question in regards to, so you are your own boss, right? You work for yourself. You started your own business.
Yep.
So what would be your advice for a young person watching us that has that same desire? They don't want to work for somebody. They don't want to be tied up to an 8-to-5 job. They want to be their own owner, their own boss, and they want to start their own business, following their passion, as you have.
Yep.
What are some of the advices? What tips would you give them?
Yep. Well, I would say be patient. Really be patient because I think sometimes people want overnight success and it
Yeah.
doesn't happen. Um, so, like you said earlier, some of it depends on relationships that you have and thinking like long term instead of short term. So, knowing that if you know inside you want to be your own boss one day, that may take 6 months, that may take 3 months, it may take 3 years, it may take 8 years, right? So, I mean, at the end of the day, you still have to pay your rents or like, you still have to take care of it. Um,
Yeah.
and talk to other people. There's so much information online to whatever that resource is, and there's a lot of some of the best information doesn't really cost that much. It wouldn't. So to be, to map out what it is you want to do. And here's the other thing: when you work for somebody, knowing one day you want to work for yourself, while you're working for that person, put yourself in the shoes of them as the business owner. Are you a good
Yeah.
employee?
Wow.
Because one day you're going
Wow.
to
That's
own a
good.
business and you're going to want someone to work for you. Or do you want them on Facebook or Instagram all day? No, you want them
Come on.
hustling for you.
Yeah.
So you hustle for them, knowing that one day that'll be you. Because I just think it's just a good skill to have, whether you're
Absolutely.
if you're working at
Wow.
McDonald's or you're, waitressing at a restaurant, you got to go wait down tables and smile and hope you get a $10 tip. Okay, yep. It's not where do you want to be forever? No doubt. So be patient, but all the time watch and see while you're in that restaurant. If you're working there, if you're at a landscaping business or you're working at Target, how's the manager managing everybody? Because maybe one day your business might be just yourself, or maybe your
Yeah.
vision is a company of 10, 20, 100 people. And
Yeah.
if you want to do that and work for yourself and be a good leader, be a good employee to start with. Just for like a good,
Yes.
out the gate, because
That
it's
is
not.
solid. That is solid information you're sharing right now. I mean, this is so good. Uh, to be a good boss, you have to be a good employee,
Yeah.
right? And that's so good. You should charge for that.
I was
So
thinking
we're
if
gonna
I
start
was to go
charging
back
for
to my
people.
old jobs, my bosses, I'd be such a better employee than I was maybe when I was 16, 17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very good. That's very good. So you have been your own boss, and
Yep.
um, talk to us about punctuality. Talk to us about what time do you wake up on a work day. What does a day
Yep.
look for you? Like a working day looks for you?
Okay, that's a good question. So, like for instance, today I got up, I answered some emails, I edited a shoot and got it online for that client that I'm going to meet with on Friday, and talk to you guys. And then I
Yes.
also packed up all my cameras. I have a shoot as soon as I leave here. I go photograph at a hotel that needs some stuff for their marketing. So every day is a different day. So let's
Okay.
say I have 4 shoots this week, and before I do that, I have to check all my equipment the night before, charge my batteries. I like to have everything packed up the night before if I can, so that way in the morning I don't have to worry about it. So in photography, there's a lot of prep work, not only with the equipment and like, hey, how's this shoot gonna go? What can I do to make this shoot extra special for this person? Then there's talking with that person, the clients or the people you're gonna photograph. Then there's the shooting, and then I bring it home. I download everything. I have these hard drives that have where dual backs up, right? Because if you shoot, I wish I had my camera in here, but I don't. It's already in the car. Everything is on this little stinking little chip, right? So if all your digitals, like you, is all is technology, right? So
Right.
I cannot not have my hard drives work, right? So I come home, I back up all my stuff, either that night or the next morning, and then
Okay.
import it into my software, get back to everybody, get ready for the next shoot. I have my sister who works for me now part time, so she helps take care of all the invoices. Because if I show up on a job, I don't want to worry about money. Like I want that taken care of ahead of time. Like I'm there to do
Okay.
that job. So she takes care of billing and invoicing and blah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. Thank God, because I used to do everything by myself. And for
Wow.
the past 2 years, she's been working for me, and it's helped tremendously. Then there's writing my newsletter, writing my blog, doing social media posts. Sometimes what I like to do is I actually really like to work on the weekend. I know I said I try to get away from that with weddings, but like if I take 3 hours on a Saturday where if I don't have a shoot, I can schedule my social media posts, think about, just get in touch with clients because the phone's not ringing. You're not getting distractions as much. I used to work late into the night because it's also a quiet time because the phone doesn't ring so much after 9 p.m. right? So I used to work late into the night, but then I was just tired and grumpy the next day, so I got away from that. But as a self-employed person, you work kind of all the time,
Yeah,
and it is, yes, it is work, but when you love it, it doesn't feel like work.
that's good.
So it makes it easier. So when you got back and you said to you were like, what would be some good advice to younger people who want to run their own business? And I was like, well, be a good employee and, work out your vision.
Yeah,
But also, it has to be something that that you love, whatever
yeah,
that is. And you don't have to know right now at all. You just kind of just go on an instinct and take a step and take a step. And maybe, yeah, this isn't the right one. And you take this step over here. But if you don't love it, you're not going to nurture it and give it the time that it needs to be that business, whatever that business may be. Maybe you want to be a bagel owner or cupcake shop. I have no idea. Maybe you want to be a photographer. Um, but you have to love it. You have to love
yeah.
90% of it. There might be little pieces that you don't like, and those little pieces you can sub out, like me and invoicing. Hey, that's why I'm my sister now, right? So I can focus
Good.
on what
Yeah,
I do love, right? Um, yeah,
that's amazing.
yeah.
Okay, so on a shoot, on a regular shoot,
Regular shoot,
approximately how many pictures do you take?
a lot. I take a
Would
lot.
you say
Yeah.
1,000?
Yeah. So I am doing these right now, these 30-minute, I call them mini sessions because 30 minutes to me is a short amount of time.
Uh-huh.
So in a mini session, I would shoot probably around 800 frames, maybe a
Wow,
thousand. And then
that's a
um,
lot for
it's a
30
lot.
minutes.
Yeah. So on a portrait shoot. So then I'll take it down and edit it because like when I photograph people, people change in a quarter of a second, right? So sometimes I'll like when I shoot, and I'm editing, and I'll look at the timestamp because it'll timestamp it to the like point millisecond, and
Wow.
someone's face, it's amazing, can change within a second. They're
Wow.
to like especially little kids. I mean, they can go from 0 to 100 in like no time. So that's one reason why I do shoot a lot because just maybe this next frame, man, this one's good. Yeah, it's fine. But this frame right here, wow, it has everything. Now, with that said, I'm going to photograph the hotel where I'm going in, and I'm going to photograph rooms mostly of hotel rooms. I will probably come back with 100 pictures and
Okay.
edit it down to like 50 because it's a room and I can know how to light it and shoot it, give a couple different angles that they need, done, next room.
Yeah.
Different subject matter, but when we're discussing people, a wedding, for instance, where I'll be at a wedding for 8 hours and I have three cameras, I will shoot 4,000, 5,000 pictures.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
It's a
How do you
lot.
edit so many pictures?
Talk about looking at pictures, right? Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
do you look at all 4,000 of
Of
them?
course I do. I look at them not just
Oh
once,
my
but like 10
goodness.
times.
Wow. I just got tired just to think
I
about
know,
it.
just
That's
thinking about it,
incredible.
right? And that's what people pay for. I mean, really, like,
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, any of us could shoot a halfway decent picture right here, but do
Uh-huh.
we, with these pictures here, how many of us like take time to edit them and archive them and put them into a
Yeah.
book? Or like, here's like a picture of my daughter when we went to California, like a big,
Oh my goodness. Oh,
big print.
can we look at it again? That's amazing.
Yeah.
You took that shot?
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it that you're using your own art in your own walls. I
Yes,
love that.
yes. Again, I wish
Awesome.
I could have done this in my studio where I have lots of wall display, but I had to go to the shoot right after, and I wanted to be closer to the shoot, and my home is closer to the hotel. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sharyn, we're getting so many questions. This
Okay.
is going
Oh,
really
cool.
great.
Let's do this.
So let's get some questions from some of our audience. So Vector, if you're there, you can help us shout out some questions. This has been really, really great. I'm so happy you joined us today.
Hey, how's it going?
Pull up questions here. All right, so photographer is mostly working with cameras, lenses, technologies. Could
I
you
can
please
see.
tell us the importance of communication with the people you work with?
Okay.
Okay, if you didn't hear it, I'll just repeat the question. Can you tell the importance of communication
Yeah.
in the type of work that you're doing? I
That
think the question went around there.
that's a terrific question. Tatiana, I think, is the one who asked that.
Yep.
Um,
Uh-huh.
that's a that is so huge. Okay, so communication on every level. Let's just break it down. So, like I talk about, I have wedding clients, I have portrait clients, I have commercial clients. Okay, let's just break it down. So, a bride, for instance, I have to know and spend time. I usually consult with them for like 3 different occasions, 1 hour consultations before their wedding, just on the phone or
Oh
in
wow.
person, right? I need to know about their family dynamics, for instance. So we need to have conversations because I want to know. Like one time I photographed a wedding and it was okay, but the bride she cried a lot that day. And I thought, wow, that was really emotional. I did not know her brother had died on that same day 3 years prior.
Wow.
So it was okay. I went with it, but that would have been something that I would have liked to have known just to be sensitive to that. I'm the type of person where if you're crying and I'm there at your wedding, I'm photographing that because that's real life, right? So that communication, that's just one aspect. But another would be, oh, well, I thought you would have taken a picture of great auntie so and so in front of her house. Well, I didn't know. If you don't tell me that great auntie so and so is at your house, I need to know these things, right? So I have to ask questions. They have to tell me what they want. Because a lot of people, oh, I just want some pictures. But no, no, no. They have this bubble in their head of this, you know, them as Kim Kardashian on the cover of Vogue, right? This is what I'm supposed to do for them. So if they don't tell me that,
Yeah.
things that happening. But every little thing, to down to somebody who, one lady, she just emailed me and she said, my hair just started turning. I don't want it to look orange in the pictures. Okay, good. Thanks for letting me
Wow.
know. Or like somebody else, I hate my profile. I just hate it. I hate it. Okay, well, I need to know that. For
Yeah.
instance, a headshot, right? If I'm doing a headshot for somebody, well, it's different to do a headshot for a lawyer than it is someone who's a chiropractor or like a, yoga instructor. So who's your audience? What is it you want to say? I, Communication is so important. And if somebody has something that they need to trust you, right? Because when you're taking their picture, they're not in control. They can't see what you're seeing. Like sometimes, yeah, you could shoot and you could have a big screen right here and it's live and everything, but like that's not really how I shoot because we're in the moment. You're gonna get distracted
Yeah.
and look at yourself, and I'm not gonna get any pictures, right? Because you're gonna be looking at yourself. So there's that. So yeah, communication is key. So when there's times where you're like, oh, I don't know if I should talk about that, talk about it. Whatever it is, just talk about it. Get it out. Because when it's all said and done, it's way easier if we had talked about it before and going back and recreating the wedding, the shoot, editing. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Now, I have another question for you. This is more
Yep.
a technical question. Technology is constantly changing and we're getting more and more
Yep.
advanced. How often do you normally change your cameras, your equipment?
So I love my cameras, right? Like I have I have my first digital. I shoot Nikon. Somebody asked who I shoot with. I've been shooting with Nikon since Nikon film cameras. I had a Nikon F3, so I shoot with Nikon. Do I
Okay.
like Canon? Yes. Sony is amazing, but I have a bucket load of money spent on Nikon, so I'm sticking there. So I still shoot with my 2005 digital DSLR sometimes.
Okay.
But I did recently get a camera. So I have 5 camera bodies right now that I work with, all Nikon D3, D700s, D850. Um, and, technology changes, but I think that you don't have to get hung up on the latest and greatest unless it serves a purpose. So what I would
That's
recommend,
good to know.
yeah, what I would recommend to people when they're like, oh, should I do this? Rent a camera for a day, spend $100, see if you like it, use it all day long, And if you do and it's worth it, then go and make that purchase. And I
Okay,
also would,
that's great.
yeah, like because you don't have to go and buy it, you can just rent it. There's plenty of professional places that rent it. And if you go to a local camera shop, like I do in Southport, Maine, you can just try it out and talk to them. And I might go and try out a lens like every time I come in. For maybe it takes a year before I decide I want to buy it. Let me pull that lens out. Let me see it. They're happy to do that. So, and you're supporting a local business versus trying to find the cheapest one on Amazon or Best Buy.
That's terrific.
Yeah,
That's really good. That's really good. All right, let's go back to another question
that's
from
right.
our audience today.
In your field, what do you think is more important, formal training or artistic passion, and why?
Mm, I think they're both important. Um, but I think probably if I had to choose what is most important, I'm going to say passion because it's going to come out in the way you approach your work. It's going to be seen in your work. So you could, I know plenty of technically outstandingly technical photographers, but their work doesn't really move me because there's no passion behind it. So I think there's much you could learn online as well. I think having passion without any technical, you really are cutting yourself short. You know, it's like being a singer, never getting some formal training to know that you could hit better notes in a better way. I'm not a singer, but I'm just making that up. Um, so I think if you have the passion, you can build the education. You could take a weekend workshop. You could log on to Creative Live or just, you know, pay $100 to somebody's like webinar and pick up tips. YouTube, hello, you could get someone once a week. You could discipline yourself. I'm going to learn something new to do with my camera that I've never done before, even if I think it's stupid. Now I know because the camera is amazing as a tool. There's so much technical stuff. I could just geek out and do technical stuff for like the next month and never be bored, you know? That's stuff I've never done before. So, passion. Get back to your question, Chip.
Awesome, awesome. So good to see, to see you working with your passion.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I see a,
All right.
I see a question that somebody asked. About
Yeah, go ahead.
digital or film? So I started learning obviously in film because I was shooting in the 90s. I still have a film camera. I encourage people, if you've never done anything with film, to do that because the magic of photography is that light hits this chemical. That's what it used to do. And with the right chemicals that you developed it in, this image would appear. I mean, it's like freaking amazing. So digital copies that basically. So I encourage people to shoot with film at some point in their life if they're interested in photography or just, you know, read up on it. But I only shoot with digital now. I don't. I have a 4x5 camera. I have a medium format camera. I teach at a school part time. Hopefully, maybe next fall I'll be able to teach again. And I make them do some assignments with the film camera just so that they can know. But yeah.
Awesome, awesome. All right, Vector, do we have another question?
Since digital cameras let you take a lot more pictures compared to a film roll, do you think digital photographers have become less decisive with composition since there is some margin for errors? Compared to shooting film, where you have much less photos that can be stored on a roll?
Yes, that's a great question. I think that if you want to be a lazy photographer and not like shoot, you know, carefully before and you just click, 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 you're going to pay for it on the other end, which is in editing. So if you're a professional photographer, you will quickly learn to not shoot more than you have to because your time spent editing afterwards is that much more enormous when so I think that the likelihood of being lazy is 100% there. But if you're actually going to do it as something you love to do and or make money at, it's not very cost effective to shoot 120 frames when maybe you only needed to shoot 5. Yeah.
That's very good.
Yeah.
Do you have another question? Okay, I do have more questions for you.
Okay.
So, you talked about you do a lot of weddings.
Yep.
Like, do you keep account how many weddings have you been to?
Couple couple years ago, I think I'd counted over 500, but I don't know.
No way. Are you serious? You know, a wedding is a very important day for most people. That's like the most important day of their lives. Get to see a lot of emotion and a lot of family dynamics. Has there ever been like one wedding that stands up to you or any experiences like that?
I mean, I've seen some that like really stood up to me. Like one of the things that I've seen that really impresses me with weddings is how much love can be in a family and how much they honor tradition. That just to me blows my mind. Maybe because, I'm a single parent and I don't know, like I just work, work, work. But when I see people take the time that, gifts that fathers had planned out to give to their daughter on their wedding day, and just seeing them both in tears, and that's like there's so many beautiful relationships like that each time I walk away I'm just so touched by how much love and care that these families have for each other. And there's something to be said for tradition. I mean, yeah, you could run off and get married, sure, no problem, but when you take that time and celebrate that, it's just great. It's just great. I have seen crazy stuff. I,
Yeah, tell
yeah,
us. I don't know if you're allowed to or not. You
that
have
was a
some
long time ago, but
confidentiality.
I mean, this one wedding, it didn't last too long, but I could not get the groom to take a picture with the bride, and
Wow,
I was looking
that's
for him
weird.
everywhere, and I think I got the only pictures of them together was at the altar. So
Oh my goodness, wow.
there's that can happen. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
What are some other stories like things? So also, I wanted to ask you about the traveling aspect.
yes,
So as a photographer,
yeah.
tell us about the traveling that goes with it.
Okay, you travel a lot, like you know. If you do anything more than just work out of your studio, you're gonna pack up and go. And that's what's really cool. Like for instance, when I moved back to Maine and started doing a lot of weddings, Maine is a really beautiful state, and there's so many towns and places I had never been to. Even though I, lived here for like 13 years when I was little, that I got to go to, so that's great. Sometimes it's a drag. I have the insurance. I have that AAA Premium Plus, like the greatest thing you can get with AAA. Let's just say I'm driving to a wedding and my car decides it doesn't want to work. That would be bad, um,
Yeah,
right? So I got the AAA where they can tow me as far as I freaking want. So if they need to, they're pulling me straight to the wedding because I'm going to get there and they'll worry about the car later. So I think
right.
that's that aspect of travel. Then there's travel like if you need to jump on a plane. I carry my what I need for my cameras with me because you never know, it could get lost or stolen. And you show up, you need to be able to shoot. Maybe you don't have your fanciest outfit, but you have at least a camera with a good lens, and you're good to go and produce something. Um, and then there's a lot of time spent in the car. So when I pick an assistant to go on a shoot with me, they need to like have some personality because we're gonna be spending 4 hours in the car driving to Cape Cod for a wedding. I gotta talk to you, and you gotta talk to me.
Yeah,
So there's that too. Yeah, and so I mean, if
that,
somebody wanted to be a photographer or just work with mine, maybe they decide it's not for them. I mean, half of whatever you do is being a personable person. I mean, many jobs for most jobs, right? So photography absolutely is one of them. If you want to work for a photographer,
that's awesome.
personality.
I think we had a technical
Yeah,
question that
technical
came in
question.
as
Yep.
far as a system. What was that? Vector, can you read that question for us? It was something about a system.
System.
That just came out. It's the last one that just came out.
Have you tried out mirrorless systems? Do
Yes.
you think it's the future?
Yes.
For beginners, should we invest in a DSLR or mirrorless?
Okay, that's a great question. So I have a mirrorless camera. I have a Panasonic mirrorless camera. I purchased it mostly to do like videos or like have my assistant shoot videos of me, but I play around with it some. It's quiet, so I like that aspect of not hearing the clunk clunk of the mirror flipping up and crashing down. That could just be obnoxious sometimes. I hate that. So mirrorless, you don't have that. Mirrorless has the technology like Sony, oh my God, to lock in on eyes. So I was doing this project of where I'm interviewing people. It's a personal project, like of portraits. And so I wanted to get their story and photograph them telling the story. And I was having a hard time, like, do I get behind the camera? But I want them engaged. With the mirrorless, it can shoot because it'll lock, the camera will lock eyes with that person. So I can be here to talk to them. That aspect of a mirrorless camera says, yes, I want to shoot with mirrorless
Wow.
for that. But me personally, on a day-to-day basis, I like the way things look through the glass. And the LCD screen is already interpreted for me. It just takes me that much further. There's a barrier between me and what I'm looking at that's interpreted by this camera pixelation trying to simulate like film, blah, blah, blah. Let me not get too technical. I don't really care for it unless it's going to make a certain project better for that reason. I prefer glass. That's me. So DSLR versus mirrorless. If you're just getting started and you don't know the difference, rent one, rent another, go to the local camera store, try it out. And you can't go wrong with mirrorless, but I prefer glass. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Sharon, I think this is a great time.
Yeah.
I really thank you for your time. I really appreciate you willing to come with us and to tell us about, bring us into this world of photography. Do you have any favorite photographers?
Ooh, boy. I do have, there's so many that just cover the gamut. I honestly don't even know where to start. Like, you just threw me off with a
Oh,
question
that's
'cause
okay.
there's
That's
so
okay.
many.
Well, I want to make sure. Do you have an Instagram?
I do have Instagram, yes.
Okay, great. So we're going to make sure that we share that Instagram with all of our audience. And do you have Facebook as well?
I have Facebook, I have Instagram. I'm tweet, but not that much. Mostly
Okay.
Instagram. Yeah, mostly Instagram.
And where is your blog?
So it's my
Do you
website,
have your own blog?
SharynPeavey.com/blog.
Okay.
There is a gamut of stuff talking about promotions I'm doing to like really in-depth personal interviews with people and shoots I've done. There's probably 100 posts on my blog. I don't know. So,
Awesome.
and anybody who's watching, feel free to reach out to me and ask me questions because I mean, I really believe that whether you become a professional photographer or not, taking pictures and being a photographer could really enhance your life and just be a personal diary, and it's just a wonderful thing. It's a great tool. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yes, it is recording a story,
Yes.
and when you look at the picture sometime later, you know, you relive those moments and
Yes.
brings a lot of emotions and things like that. So,
Yes.
yeah, they have an amazing career,
Yeah.
and we are so thankful for you being willing to come and joining us here on a walk in my shoes. You really took us into your shoes, and we got to see, experience a lot. So thank you so
My
much,
pleasure. My
Sharon.
pleasure.
Anything else you'd like to say to our audience before we go?
For anybody who had questions that I didn't get to, I'm sorry. I tend to talk. I like to talk, and I just
That's good.
honestly really appreciate that. This is just my life, and I appreciate that. If it can help somebody in some way, this story, I hope it does.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm sure you have, and you've helped me. So I'm really appreciate it. I'm sure you've helped a lot of people. So, Sharon, once again, I'm really thankful, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you for being with us,
God.
and we appreciate you, and we wish you the best of shootings today, and as you continue, and we're wishing you the best. We send greetings to Maine.
Yeah.
So, thank you very much.